This video was made possible by EA Game Changers. Hey guys, how you going? This is BillyEatWorld again, and today we're going to take a quick look into the Tides of War live service that's going to be in BF5. Because I think so far what we've all heard from official channels is stuff like no premium pass and no pay to win, but we haven't really heard too much about how Tides of War is actually gonna work. Or should I say we have heard a fair bit, but I just don't think the majority of the community really understands it yet. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to take a deeper dive into Tides of War, and in particular what I think you can expect to see in BF5 over the next few years, and most importantly, when. Okay, so to kick off, the first thing that we do know for sure is, like I said before, there's no more premium pass in BF5, meaning everyone is going to get the same content. And speaking of content, well, another thing we know for sure is that, unlike in previous games, there's going to be a lot more stuff to do in between the big expansions, which is something that the series honestly just has to offer these days because so many other shooter games are all competing to get players to come back every day. So with that being said, it'll be really interesting to see if this concept does keep players engaged on a regular basis, and most importantly, whether BF5 manages to survive longer than BF1 did. So what sort of content are we gonna get anyway? Well, obviously we're gonna get new maps, new game modes and new gear, but what we're also gonna get is special assignments. And unlike in previous games, these are going to be designed in such a way that'll keep you coming back every day, every week, and every month. Also, apparently the Grand Operations mode is something that DICE is looking at rotating and messing about with periodically through the life of the game. And as far as we know, this is all going to tie in with special events that are historically themed, to give you a bit more of an authentic experience than what you'd expect from a Battlefield game. Now, speaking of history, well, that's another thing that I just don't think people realise Tides of War is going to focus on. Because according to the devs, they want to take us on a journey of World War II, starting with the fall of Europe and running presumably through till the end of the war. The way they're going to do this is by rotating and releasing the Tides of War content chronologically every few months to focus on different periods of the war. Which is why, as a lot of you guys are probably wondering, why we're not going to see the USA, Japan or the Soviet Union at launch, because they weren't really involved in the fall of Western Europe. So the question is, when are we going to see these factions? Well, to start with, we probably should talk about what the fall of Europe actually means. And, well, considering we do know for sure that locations like Norway, France, the Netherlands and North Africa are going to be in the game at launch, that would put DICE's fall of Europe somewhere around 1940 to 1941. So with that being said, considering World War II only lasted until mid-1945, that means I'd say the devs will probably be pretty hard pushed to include more than about 3 or at a stretch 4 more rotations. And that means that we're probably looking at rotations that are going to last around 4 to 6 months, assuming, of course, that the next Battlefield game is going to come out in 2020. Now, as for when we are going to see the Soviets in the game, well, historically speaking, we probably should see them before everyone else, as Operation Barbarossa kicked off in June 1941, which, for those of you who aren't up to speed with World War II history, is about 5 months before the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor and when the USA officially joined the war. So logically, if I'm correct on how long the rotations are going to be, what that means is that we're probably going to have to wait till something like April 2019 to see the Soviets, and probably October to see the USA and Japan, which leaves just enough room for a 4th rotation around April 2020, which you'd think would have to include battles like Normandy, as well as the Battle of the Bulge, the Fall of Berlin, and maybe some of the later battles in the Pacific like Iwo Jima. What this also means is that it's probably going to be quite a while before we see a lot of American or Soviet gear in the game, unless it was historically used by one of the other factions. Like, for example, I'd imagine there is a good chance we are going to see Tommy guns at launch, not only because they were in the reveal trailer, but because they were used by the British in the first part of the war. Also, I should point out, don't expect to see a lot of quintessentially World War II vehicles like P-51 Mustangs and Panther tanks, because once again, they weren't really part of the fall of Europe. But in saying that, don't feel too bad about it because you can bet they are going to come sometime in the future. And in the meantime, well, you can discover a side of World War II that you probably haven't heard too much about. But anyway, guys, that just about wraps up this quick video, so make sure you let me know what you think of the new Tides of War live service in the comments section down below. In particular, I want to know what period of the war you're most looking forward to seeing, and whether or not you think it's a good idea that DICE are adding content in a chronological order. As always though, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and please feel free to check out the links in the description below if you want to see any more of my videos. And also don't forget you can find my Twitter and Discord links down there below if you want to keep in touch with me. And as always, until next time, see you later and have a good one.